Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt, and I'm your host here again tonight on the Sedona Connection. I want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. This is the June 20th program, and tonight I am on Blog Talk Radio, and also I will be live streaming on YouTube, and that should be coming up here any moment. In fact, excuse me just a minute. I realized I need to sign in to my YouTube page. I thought I had, and I wasn't, so let me just excuse me just a minute as I type in my email to do my login there. So that's the first part, and then the next part is okay. Oh yeah, I think I got it there. Yes, and now so because I wasn't seeing my live broadcast there on my YouTube page, and let's see what we got here. Is it beginning to come up? And are we there? Let's see. No, let's go back here. Go back there again. Okay. And to the channels. No, let's try this one. Try the videos. And if, yes, it does say Dave Schmidt is live streaming on YouTube. Now let's go to that channel where I am so I can see that I'm actually there, okay? And what I need to do is I need to shut off the sound there. Let's go to that channel where I am so I can see, because otherwise, because there's that slight delay. But again, thank you. We're ready to go. I'm up and going. And, and I have to do that because I have to make sure everything is operating correctly. Because, I sometimes I say, am I live? Am I not live? Well, if I've got the window on in the background, then I know that. So, well, what's different about tonight, folks, I'm in a hotel room tonight. When I'm at home, I've got these two really large monitors, so it's easy for me, to spread out 3 or 4 different open windows. But when I'm in a hotel room, all I got is my laptop. And so it's a little bit different, and I've got to shrink the windows down and make sure that everything is going. So, but that's that. Again, welcome tonight. And Blanca, how are you doing this fine and wonderful evening?
I'm fine this fine and wonderful evening. Glad that get a chance to cool off. I told you we've had very hot weather here in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, we're starting to get it too in Sedona. We were at 98 today in Sedona, but that means it was 110 in Phoenix today, folks. And I usually avoid this area in the summertime. So, but we're doing well. Everything is good. It says that my live streaming is trying to get. It seems to be not totally going there. In fact, someone sent me a text. Let me just take a look here and see what they told me. Okay, but audio is good on YouTube, but the video is still trying to catch up for some reason. It's doing the little circle thing on the video, but so much for that. But Blanca, anything else you would like to share with us tonight? I just need to go on with the program regardless of what. You see, sometimes it doesn't come up good on my screen, but yet it's still recording it, so when people want to watch it in an archive, it's just fine. It's a little bit different live than what it is on the archive. But when you're live, you basically want to hear what's going on, and then the live streaming is good when people want to watch it later. But, Blanca, what do you got to share with us tonight?
Well, hopefully you won't get popped off of Blog Talk like you did last time. I was just chatting with folks while you were YouTubing.
Everything was great on YouTube, and the whole program was great, and I have absolutely no idea why Blog Talk just shut down. Well, we were probably about an hour into the program when it happened, so, yeah. Right. Whatever. We do what we got to do. That's all we can do, so.
The show must go on.
That's right, so. Yeah, anything else you want to share before I just kind of do some general announcements and stuff?
No, I think that's it. I'm curious how you're doing with your preparations to go to Norway, and any updates that you may have about workshops. So maybe we should continue with that.
Okay. Well, yes, tomorrow, Norway. I get to go to Norway. This is a hosted workshop, which means the folks there had put it all together, and they invited me, and I get to show them and share with you my little book that was given to me as a gift. So I'm going to be having that on the plane with me. I should say 3 planes, because I got a long travel day tomorrow. I leave Phoenix at about 8:30 in the morning, and then I go to Charlotte where I change planes, and I got a 3-hour layover there. and then I fly from Charlotte to London, and I got a 5-hour layover in London, and then a 2-hour flight to Oslo, Norway. So I leave Phoenix at 8:30 a.m. and then I arrive on Thursday, and then I arrive in Oslo at 4:30 p.m. on Friday, and then have a workshop on Saturday. And the blessing is the wonderful folks there to say, come be a tourist, and they're going to take me out being a tourist through all of southern Norway for about 3 days. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, folks, for doing that. It's a great opportunity, a great experience to do that. So I'm thankful for that. So that's that. That's why we do that. And then the next workshop is another hosted workshop. It's in Laverne, Minnesota, and we want to thank the folks that is for there. It's a little tiny town in the very, very southwestern corner of Minnesota, but anybody can come. And this one is on July 23rd. And yes, folks, that is a Monday. Now, I always do them on Saturdays when I do it, but they're hosting it. It's their community, and that's when the meeting facility is available on a Monday, and that's their choice. So, but you're choosing to come, and you can come if you want to. I will be posting that registration open that in about the next week, but July 23rd in Laverne, Minnesota. So. And I've been kind of quiet, as I said, on the workshops because there's a ton of stuff going on behind the scenes. I don't have any updates on the exchange information this week. All I know is that what I did say is that last week was there was a deliberate attempt to shut us down and to totally stop us. We knew it was Black Hat Cabal sources that where it was coming from, and it really, they stepped up their game is what they did, because they know who we are, they know what we're wanting to do, and they don't want this happening. So we had to basically restructure, kind of put some safety caution systems in there, and that's why we've had a little more of a delay on this time, because again, they're always ready to go, and then something comes up that we don't know, totally unexpected, and we have to make those adjustments, and that's what happened this week. Or it's been the last couple of weeks, but that's all I got to say on that. So yeah. Anything else there, Blanca, that you'd like to share?
Well, anyway, I think you are lucky to get to go to Norway, and it was very gracious of the host to offer you a trip around their country. I mean, that's the best way to see the land with people who are native, don't you think?
Yes. Oh, it is. Yeah. We go all the way across southern Norway from Oslo on the east coast all the way over to the west coast for 3 days. It's a 3-day trip. So yeah, that's a good. Never been
very
there.
Nice.
So it'd be nice. Yeah. So
very, very nice. Now the Laverne, Minnesota workshop you were talking about, you're still planning to have Mr. M and Miss M there, correct?
Yes, and they will be there for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, they will be there for that one. Mr. M and Miss M will be at the Laverne, Minnesota workshop. So yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that would be a good one if people can be adventurous and make their way to Laverne, Minnesota, to take advantage of that. Because again, these people, as the currency exchange process gets closer and closer, they may be, let's put it this way, occupied with some other processes, and so it would be good to take advantage to meet them and hear what they have to say, ask them your questions while they're still available. So that's a good opportunity for folks who want a chance to talk to people who are involved in the process.
And I can say that I don't have a specific date yet, but after Laverne, the one I'm going to do after that is going to be Toronto. Those people have just saying, please, please, please come. I've had so many people say, please come to Toronto. So I will be doing Toronto after Laverne. It will probably be sometime in either late August or early September. I don't have locked in dates yet, but all you folks are in Toronto, no, I'm coming, okay? Because I just want to say thank you very much for the invite. You've been very adamant about wanting me to come there, and I thought, okay, so that's why I've made the commitment that Toronto will be the next one after Laverne, and we'll do that sometime, as I said, in late August or early September. I don't have the exact dates in there yet, but you can start planning for that, okay? So yeah, hopefully I can get those dates locked down in the next 2 weeks for Toronto. And but that's it. That's all I got on those types of announcements. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us, Blanca?
Well, I'm just going to say that I'm so glad to hear you're going to do Toronto. Every time that we were able to attend a workshop, we'd meet people from Canada. And so they'd make the effort to come all the way here in Atlanta. We met so many folks from Canada, and so I think it's a really good gesture to go there and give some people the opportunity who maybe haven't had a chance to come to workshop down here to head over there. So that's good news, Dave.
Yes. Now, tonight's program, folks, is going to be a short program. Last week, I went into a general teaching format, and the program was about an hour and 40 minutes long. And I realized, that's too long. Most of us, when we want to be in a teaching format, usually 45 minutes to an hour is kind of our max. That's for attention span and stuff like that. And when I do an hour and 40-minute program, most of you have to break it up into chunks, because a lot of you, like me, we don't necessarily have an hour and a half to 2 hours to sit down to listen to a program. So when I start doing the teaching formats like this, I'm going to keep those programs to about 45 minutes to an hour is what I'm going to do. I'll just stretch the material out over a couple more programs if I need to do that. But, we have a time limit. We have jobs to do. We have families to take care of, and I understand that. And we don't all need to be listening to 2 hours every week, unless you want to. Some folks, that's okay. It's a little different on the radio, because the radio, you can download the MP3 file onto your phone or something. You can listen to it throughout the week, and a lot of people do that. Well, it's a little different when it's a video. It's a little more, it takes a little more room on your phone. It's a little different when you have to download a video. So tonight's program will be a little bit shorter for that reason, and for another reason. I had a program designed tonight, and I was going to do again what I did last week, where I had some YouTube videos that I was going to share in the program. And I had that all set up on my computer at home. And then I basically had one of those brain fart moments, okay? I forgot to put it on my jump drive so I could download it onto my laptop. So those video files are on my computer at home, and they're not here. So tonight, I'm just going to do some general discussion around the same theme issues, and I'll give it in a little broader sense. Probably won't talk for much more than 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll go in and take the calls. So it's going to be a shorter program tonight. So folks, if you got some real questions, and I'm willing to, remember, on the radio, I'll take any question. If I can't answer it, I'll just say, for security reasons, I can't say that. So, but always feel free to do that. So know that if you want to have some questions tonight, and you can, through Blog Talk, you go in and you call in on the number on Blog Talk Radio. And that number is 515-605-9356. And again, 515-605-9356. Press 1 on your touch-tone phone, and that lets us know that you would like to come on the air, so that to either have some questions or some comments, and we always welcome that. So, well, with that, Blanca, anything else you'd like to share before I get in for about the next 5 to 10 minutes and discussing some things?
No, I got a tickle in my throat, so I'm going to have to mute myself.
Okay.
If I can find the mute button.
All right. You can find the mute button, and then I'm ready to go. So, okay. Well, again, thank you, folks. If you want to edit out part of the program, this is where I get into the teaching format of the program here. It's June 20th on the program here. Now, last week, I had brought this extensive program talking about how the world is basically a holographic universe. Now, it was this book that I had shared with you, and I know Blanca has said she's picked it up. She's absolutely loving it. It's a great book. It's called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. And even though there's a lot of what is called research that's based on scientific research in there, he puts it into a very readable format. And here's what it comes down and says. We live in a world where we have been conditioned and programmed to believe that everything in this world is physical. Everything has a sense of density to it. And that was the debate that Albert Einstein had with this Professor Bohm, who was a PhD. What Einstein still said, all the way down at the quantum level, we're still living in a world where things are made of particles. But Bohm had taken a different theory. He said, no, that's not possible. The world is not physical, it's holographic. And it's a projection that comes out of our thoughts. Because he says, if the world was physical, we have way, way, way too many things that happen that we can't explain in a what is called a quantum universe, how that works and how it takes place. He says we have what is called the paranormal events. We have the miraculous events. We have things that appear out of nowhere. We have areas where people they cannot be harmed. They cannot be physically harmed. And he says, if the world is still quantum, it doesn't make sense. But if you are willing to accept the world is a holographic model, it does. In the book, Talbot gives this one example, and this was something I think he said it happened back in the 1960s. There was this gentleman in the Philippines, and they had the ability, they would take a sword and they would stick it into his tummy all the way through his body so it was sticking out the backside of his back. He had no pain. He had no physical sensations. He didn't even feel like that it was even there at all. They would take the sword, twist it, turn it, everything. Nothing happened to him. And then they would pull it out. No blood, no damage, just a little tiny incision mark, and that was it. So what Bohm is saying, for something like that, if a world is a quantum world, that's not possible. We can't explain that. But in a holographic world, we can. When the stories of this got around, there was an occasion that there were a number of scientists and doctors from the United States went to basically to verify that this was happening with this guy. And they did it again. They photographed it. They record him. He could talk. He could do everything while the sword was sticking in him. And while the sword was in his front side, sticking out his back, they took him to an x-ray machine and did an x-ray. And they said, yeah, it's there. It's all the way through his body. You see, well, what happens in that type of a scenario is he has, at a unconscious level, has programmed his mind to say he can't be hurt. And because of that, that's what happens. So then what does that mean for us? When we experience pain, when we experience damage, when we experience disruptions and all that kind of stuff, it's not the fact that the body is physical. It's the fact that the mind has been programmed to think that it is. In a holographic world, we are always able to move beyond the limitations of the physical. And I shared last week the best example of that, the person who was the best prototype of that for us was Jesus. See, in a holographic world, you have a way now to explain how he could do his miracles, how he could turn the water to wine, how he could walk on the water, how he could feed 5,000 people with just a few loaves and fishes because he could make it multiply, and also how he could be crucified on a cross and it didn't kill him. Because he knew, he had come to understand what the world really was like. And he says it's beyond what we call the limitations of the mind. It's our thoughts and our programming that puts this limitations on us that makes us think that it's this way. Now, why am I sharing all this? What is so important about us for understanding that? And here's about what comes from a number of the other books that I read. If we are conditioned to believe that the world is real and physical, if we are conditioned to believe that we can suffer pain and be victims, if we are conditioned to believe that we have all these limitations, then that's what we will experience. Because you see, it's our beliefs and the power of our beliefs that creates everything around us and all our experiences. And Talbot talks about that in this book. He says it's the power. He comes out, and I share this in the workshops, and he says the human mind puts out and creates a type of energy, an energy field that they still don't even understand today, but they can measure it. They can say that they can see that there's this vibratory energy, these energy waves that come out of the human mind, and it's so strong and so powerful they don't understand it. But what they say is that this energy field of the human mind is what impacts and creates everything around us. It's what gives action to what we would call what we think is matter, but it's not created it in a physical sense. It's creating it in the form of a hologram. It's creating it in the form of an illusion that our mind perceives. Now, I was going to share some new videos tonight, and I'll do those. Well, I won't be able to do them next week because next Wednesday I'm going to be in Norway. But in the next couple of weeks, I'll get to that where I'll be able to share that. Why is this important? We're going to be on the receiving ends of unlimited amount of funds to distribute around the world. And we know The most important thing is that the real reason for that is we live in a world where humanity for thousands of years has lived in different forms of financial slavery. And we're in the process of starting to set ourselves free from that. This is just the start of that process. And as we are setting ourselves from these financial slaveries, we want to help people, and in some way we want to fix the world. But here's the dilemma. You can't fix an illusion. You can't fix a hologram. Now, here's the illustration of how we can put this into a practical perspective. If we have a period of time where we get sick or we're not feeling well, and we want to take some medication to make us feel better, what are we really doing? What we're really doing is treating a symptom. Let me give an illustration. Let's say you have a very severe bad headache, and it's just pounding, boom, boom, pounding at you. There's nothing wrong with doing what we need to do to fix the symptom, i.e., take some medicine, take some aspirin, take some type of a pain control issue. There's nothing wrong with that because we're programmed to believe that. Because the bottom line is we want to get rid of the pain, right? Yes, and that's okay, getting rid of the pain. But because we're programmed to think that the pain is real and the pain is physical. And so you take the immediate step to fix the symptom. But when the symptom then gets resolved and the pain is gone, you're in a position again where you can start thinking a little more clearly. And what we want to do next is, what was the cause? What caused that headache? Where did that headache come from? What created that? And then we want to take appropriate steps to fix the cause so it doesn't come back at us again, because we don't like that. That's what's in our physical world, our holographic world, but that's how we react and how we're programmed. When we look at the world of its financial status, its financial situation, and the calamity that we have and the discord that we have all around this world, we're talking about symptoms. And so there's nothing wrong with moving the money out there, giving it out because we have it and it's available to distribute it, and we help relieve people of the temporary pain of lack. And when that happens, they are then in a position to be free. You're in a position now to be more alert. You're in a position to be more aware. And that's when we get to start realizing, wait a minute, why was I experiencing lack? What was the real cause of this lack, this financial slavery? The cause is what is called for what is called in the larger spectrum of humanity, it's separation consciousness. You fix the separation, you fix the cause, and we don't have those problems because we are able to rise above them. And when you do that, that's what happens. So that's why it's important to understand that the world is just a hologram, because that gives us the ability to be able to focus and to understand and to know we can rise above it. See, in a holographic world, there's no limitations. The only limitations is how we think. The only limitations of how we have programmed ourselves of what we want to believe. Now, undoing that doesn't happen overnight, folks. It doesn't happen overnight. It usually takes decades, if not a lifetime or two, to undo this programming that's deep, 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 deep down in our unconscious. But it has to start somewhere. That's my passion. That's what I'm learning. And my goal now in my own private life is to take the next step beyond this issue around money and to start reprogramming my mind that there's an unlimited capability. That's what Jesus did. He had unlimited capability to do what he did, to be who he was, to live as he lived. And he always did it from this deep, deep sense of love. Always came from this place of deep sense of love and deep compassion for humanity. And that helped him to go beyond what was our programmed limitations. And he said, everything that I do, everything that I have done, you can do that and even more. It's possible for you to do that. We hear these things. We've heard these in sermons. We've heard these in messages. But what is a practical, tangible way to help us do that? Those are some of the things I want to start talking about. But what I understand, how I've come to understand this, is the first step that's very, very helpful for doing that is unprogramming the old program, undoing the old program. And part of undoing the old program is realizing the program isn't real. It's just an illusion. It's like we're living in a dream state is what we're doing. And when we undo that, we open ourselves to new possibilities. We open ourselves to new horizons. We open ourselves to different ways that we can step into healing and changing our world all around us. Because the real healing, the real change, is not trying to fix an illusion, because you can't fix an illusion. You can fix the perception that creates the illusion. That you can fix, but you can't fix the illusion itself. Because you see, if we go out and try to fix something that's out there happening in the world, and you, again, think of it in terms of it's just a symptom, you may fix the symptom temporarily. But because it's still, its cause, its creation, is coming from separation consciousness will just continue to create more problems. You fix one, another one pops up. You fix that one, another one pops up. And they will have a tendency to get worse each time around. Because that's the nature of what we call the ego, of what the ego would want to do in a world of separation consciousness. You have to fix the cause. And the cause is separation consciousness. And you undo separation consciousness when you start stepping into realizing that it's not real. It's just a hologram. It's just an illusion is all that it is. It's a hologram that's created from the separation consciousness thought process. So when we start thinking correctly, we start producing what is true. We start producing what is real. We start healing the cause of the problems that are around us. So that's basically all I wanted to share tonight. So Blanca, is there anything else that you would like to add to that before we have? I think we've got a couple people here that would like to come on the air. Anything else you'd like to share with us tonight, Blanca? Because we've been almost a half hour in the program already.
No, well, it was good what you did share. And if people do want to either ask a question or add a comment or share an insight, all they have to do is dial the number that you said, the 515-605-9356, and then press 1.
Yep.
And they'll be in the queue. But I think what I enjoyed is you're starting to bring down the, from a conceptual level to a practical level, and then also continuing to link why this notion and this realization is important, especially as we are working to get ready for our currency exchange and to have access to funds, because our impact is going to be very, very much increased. So if we've got a better hold on quote-unquote reality, that's just going to be even more empowering and more effective. So what I'm hearing you say, too, is that this is almost a responsibility within each individual, that there's an interior work that has to be done along with the exterior work of sharing funds, managing projects, etc. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Well, there was one of the authors of the books that I read. He basically says that this holographic illusion world that we live in is basically like a prison. It's a mental prison. And we're stuck here inside of this prison. And until we come to understand that the world is not real, that it is just a holographic illusion, we stay stuck here. And he says we continue to reincarnate. And that as humans, we've all had hundreds, if not over 1,000 lifetimes. And we will continue over and over and over and over again to basically continue to reincarnate and come back to the prison each lifetime until we understand it's not real and undo its conditioning inside of us. So if there was anything that would be a motivation, that would be it. I'd like to, it's called the ultimate prison break of getting out of this world is what it is.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we want to get beyond this world of pain, illusion, suffering, misery, anxiety, fear, greed, power, control. That has been the condition of the human race for tens of thousands of years. And that has not changed a lot. And it doesn't change until we undo that programming of the separation consciousness and move into this high state of heart consciousness. And that's what begins to set us free. And so that's why in the workshops it says, if everything I have to share, understanding this is probably more important than anything else. Because otherwise, everything we do, we're just doing it within the holographic prison. And we're stuck here. I want out. I'd like to get out. But it takes work to get ourselves out. Okay? Any other comments?
Well, yes, and I think too, it's a delicate balance because, like you say, we're here, right?
Yeah.
So we could say it's a holographic illusion. We could say that it's not real, that it's a dream, but yet our consciousness, this is our location of consciousness where we are experiencing our consciousness. Now, where I think we get a little entrapped is that we believe that it's real as opposed to an experience of a perception or experience of consciousness. The other thing is because our fellow are also creating a reality, we've got this kind of consensus reality. So we have our own little individual experience of what's going on, and then as a collective, we're agreeing, yes, we're agreeing that we're in the United States, we're agreeing that such and such is the bad guy, we're agreeing, you see? So we're going to have to check within ourselves what kind of reality we want to experience and then start making that happen. It's an interior process, right? It's going to be very hard to create a world of peace if within ourselves we're at war within ourselves, hating, judging, you see? So there's a lot of interesting meditations, I think, for people if they want to take this on.
We still live and still experience the holographic world. But what we can do by a change of moving into heart consciousness is make it be a happy experience while we're here. We can turn the experience into a positive experience. We can turn the experience into a very happy, experience. We can turn it into a very peaceful experience. But it takes work to do that. And that shift and change is an inner heart consciousness shift and change is what it is. And it was really interesting that, in fact, I didn't, I talk a lot about the book by Gary Renard, Disappearance of the Universe, because he's the one that describes that the best of everybody that I've read. And I did have Gary and Cindy, his wife, I hosted them at a workshop here in Sedona over the weekend, and I was able to spend a good deal of time with them. I thought, oh my gosh, it's like these, Gary and Cindy, they get it. They're living it. And he gave a great illustration. He says, as you undo, and they use the term the ego consciousness, as you undo the ego consciousness, you move into the heart consciousness, and it's a progression, and you get to experience it. And he says, you find that things that used to press your buttons, they don't press your buttons anymore. You find yourself being very peaceful in areas where you didn't used to be peaceful. And you also begin to experience things within your body. Gary is 66 or 67 years old, and he says when he started this about 20 years ago, he hasn't aged. He hasn't aged in almost 20 years, and people who know him says, you don't look any older today than you did 20 years ago. And he says, I don't feel older either. He says, I am about 20 pounds heavier than what I was 20 years ago, but I feel lighter. My body feels light. It feels flexible. It feels fluid. It feels like it's times it's just like I'm kind of floating through. And he says, I notice I don't eat as much as I used to so what's happening is the sense of density or physicality in his life is fading away as he's moving into what is called a light being, getting to experience his light body. And that's what this transition does. When you undo the ego consciousness and move into the heart consciousness, you're moving out of the density of an ego lifestyle and moving into what is called your light body. And you begin to experience that. And it's a progression. It doesn't happen just boom overnight. It's a progression that comes through years. And I'm already experiencing some of that myself. I notice I don't sleep. I don't need to sleep as much as I used to. And I sleep all that I want, all that I need. I don't need to sleep as much as I used to. My physical body is heavier than it's ever been, but I don't feel that. I don't feel my weight at all. I don't seem to have to exercise as much as I used to just to make myself feel decent. I notice I'm not eating anywhere near as much food as I used to. I don't need to. And there's been moments I've experienced that real lightness. That it's almost like you're kind of floating, and it's a very peaceful, blissful feeling that you have in that. Because I notice I'm making that transition as well. So it's a great place to be.
Very good.
Once you get it and you
Well,
understand
yes,
it,
and that's
once you catch it, it's like there isn't anything else you really want. It motivates you more than anything else.
correct. The other thing, and we've been talking about this, and you've been talking about this for some time about the heart consciousness, and really the heart understands the universe an illusion with the brain. You know, it's like jumping over your own knees. But the heart can understand these bigger concepts, and so this is the other reason why heart consciousness is also very effective. Of course, you will unite it with as well, but if one practices the heart virtues, then you'll start understanding it a little differently.
Yeah, it will. Excuse me here. I'm just going to get a little bit of water. Yes, so I think we're ready to go to callers.
Alrighty.
Why don't I go ahead and take that first one? I'll just go directly into him, and then you can go ahead and pre-screen the person with the 617 area code. Okay?
Alrighty. Will do.
Okay. All right. I'm going to click on this person and bring them on the air. Hello there, this is Dave. You're on the air. You had pressed 1 on your touch-tone phone. You got all ones along your phone number. Did you want to come on the air? This is Dave.
I'm on the air. Hello,
You're on the air.
Dave, you're on the air. You had pressed 1 on your touch-tone phone. You got all ones along your phone number. Did you want to come on the air? This
And we
is
can
Dave.
tell that you're listening because that's the delayed recording in the
Hello, on the
background.
air. Dave, you're on the air. You had pressed 1 on your touch-tone phone. You got all ones along your phone
I don't
number.
think they want to come on the air. I don't think they were quite ready for that, so I'm going to go ahead and take them off. Okay? All right? Okay, so that person, we took them off the air. Blanca is pre-screening the other person. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just join them. I'm going to go ahead and bring them in because we don't have anybody else there. Hello, this is Dave. I know Blanca was there with you. Area code 617. I was ready to go ahead and come on in. Did you want to join us
Hi,
on the air
Max.
tonight?
You're talking to me now, right?
Yes, I am. Is this Max?
Yep, Max Potential here.
Okay, Max, what can we help you with tonight?
I want to give a shout out to my good buddy Peter Hornsby. You know who you are. He's probably listening to the call.
Okay.
I told Blanca I didn't know exactly what I was going to say, but it would come, and so it just came, so to speak.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I'm continually trying to get different perspectives that people have about holographic universe, the hologram, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the things you say are very interesting. I've also heard people say that the hologram is something that was created by, some set of beings that are trying to hack into our brain and control the planet. And there's all different kinds of perspectives. The one that I find to be most simple and easy to navigate around is with, as you mentioned, A Course in Miracles, being that it was a tiny mad idea that was somehow accepted as real. So that there is no quote unquote beginning of, when the hologram started or how the separation occurred. It just sort of is, if you will. However, I do know that a lot of your attention the last couple programs have been about science, the Neruda interviews with these really, really brilliant people that are figuring out these secrets about how the universe actually works, and that they're many, many decades ahead of where society is now. How do you, from your point of view, kind of square the two different perspectives? On the one hand, it's a tiny mad idea that the separation occurred, but it didn't occur, but we just think it did. And then there's this whole sort of continuation of splitting and dividing billions and trillions of times as science or whoever pursue these different sort of beliefs in terms of trying to figure out how this universe that doesn't exist exists. I don't know.
Well,
Did you sort of catch that?
Yes, I do, and I understand what you're saying. And I want to come back and I want to use the example of what is called non-dualistic thinking versus pure non-dualism. Course in Miracles is the only one that is truly pure non-dualistic in its teaching. And it is the one that says this never happened. It never did take place. You're in a dream state is what you are, and you're creating the dream state as you go along. And when you read Gary Renard's books, and he basically, through the discussions he has, he says that less than 1% of the population on this planet understand that. So therefore, that means that the other 99% are still thinking that it's real. And there's different areas and levels and degrees of how they think that it's real. 98% of the world's population think that it's always real, but there's a 1% they understand that it is a holographic universe, but they're not making the full transition yet. Transitions take place over decades. And so that's why we can have different interpretations, different opinions, different projections where all of this is. But the places that I have seen, that I have read, that describe it, that helps you understand it the most, again, is A Course in Miracles, Gary Renard's materials, the Neruda interviews, and now this book, The Holographic Universe. And when you start putting all those together, it says it helps you understand your perception process, and then it helps you to undo it, is what it is. So that's how I would understand it. Does that make sense?
It's a good perspective.
We all are going to see it differently because we're at different places in our lives through our own growth and development in this process. So our perceptions are going to be different, and different people are going to explain it differently. The reason why I try to use a lot of scientific background, because I want to give something that's tangible. I don't want it to sound like it's just a bunch of woo-woo thinking, that's crazy and stupid. I want to back it up with solid, credible physical science research that begins to show you, no, this is the way that it is. It's one thing to go out there and say the world is a holographic universe. It's another thing when you've got credible scientists that have been studying it for decades and decades will say, no, that's the way that it is. I gave that illustration as that, see, Dr. Bohm, who was one of the originators of the concept of the holographic universe, he and Einstein always had this debate. Einstein said, no, it's physical particles of quantum, and Bohm said, no, it's not, it's holographic. And Einstein held that position all the way up until the last year in his life. Finally, at the end of his life, it is stated that he finally came around and he admitted to Bohm, he says, I think you're right, because I can't make anything fit of what you talk about into a quantum world of particle matter. It doesn't, we can't find an answer to the things that you say, but your holographic theory allows that to happen. See, so this has always been a debate that's been going on for decades, but we're just starting to bring it out to our level of the common person to be able to understand it. And it's our understanding it that will help us get out of this prison.
So I have just two sort of quick comments, insights, and they both support what you were saying as you were giving me your take on the holographic universe. One has to do with the percentages that you were talking about, how maybe 1 or 2% of the people really understand that it's just it's a hologram, but the separation never happened, that type of thing. This thought came to me, well, we all are having an experience of having an experience. And I think that that's particularly difficult to deny. But if anyone were to even try to deny it, all they have to do is say, okay, I'm not here. And that's kind of answers that right there. No one can say, I'm not here. It just doesn't work. Therefore, if people are having an experience of having an experience, then it makes sense that science would go about following the different clues or different questions that they have in order to try to make some sort of sense of how things work, especially
Sure.
when they make discoveries. Those discoveries lead to more questions, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. Yep.
The other thing is that what gave me a great deal of buoyancy with regard to this whole reincarnation question is that I feel that because we're in a dream, whenever we have dreams at night, we're often, if you pay attention, if one pays attention, going to, 3, 4, 5, 10 different places at once. I mean, the scenario will just change. I might be on top of a building, then I'll be swimming, then I'll be having, whatever, in a fight with someone. It's the same thing in the dream that we're in.
Yeah.
Each lifetime is a switch of a different part of the dream, but there seems to be some sort of method for growing and evolving and becoming more principled, if you will, about how to love and how to forgive and how to really be a help in this world.
Yep.
So those are my 2 comments.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Max. Anything else?
No, fine.
Great. Thanks for calling. Okay.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to the next caller, and his name is Jim. Area code 208. Jim, you're on the air. What can we help you with tonight?
Yeah, hi, Dave. Enjoying your show tonight. I was just curious about one thing. You maintain that we live in a holographic universe along with Talbot and Bohm, evidently. And that the reason we see things the way we see them or experience a physical universe and its seeming laws is because of conditioning. Is because of our conditioning, correct?
Yes.
And also the reason that Filipino man was able to have a spear thrust through him was without hurting him. He was able to uncondition himself to be able to pull off that feat.
Right.
Is that okay? So if this is all true, then theoretically you should be able to take a newborn baby and thrust the spear through him and have him be unharmed because he has no conditioning.
No, that's not true. That is the point that's not true. The conditioning in the unconscious mind comes from every lifetime you have ever lived. You see, when we have our thoughts, all of our thoughts are recorded in our DNA. Every thought, every emotion you've had in every lifetime you have ever lived is inside of you in your DNA. And the DNA is what goes from one lifetime to the next for hundreds over 1,000 lifetimes. So that's why we are programmed to believe as we believe. You can't take a baby and do that to a baby and think that the baby is not conditioned. That's not true, because the baby has the unconscious memory still programmed into it for the 1,000 lifetimes it had previously lived. And that's why that baby would suffer.
Well,
because see,
yeah,
the
well, I know
unconscious
you
mind is different than the conscious mind. Totally different. And it's, your programming is at the unconscious level, not at the conscious level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I thought you might go there, but I'm wondering. First of all, you have to accept the idea that we live more than one life. And there's many Christians out there that would deny that,
And I know that. Now let me explain that. Let me explain that, Jim. Through the masses and the masses of the thousands of years of history, Western world Christianity is the only one that denies reincarnation. Every belief system, every culture through all of history has always recognized reincarnation except Western Christianity, that came from the origination of the Catholic Church. When the Empire of Rome started Christianity as its official religion, it outlawed believing in reincarnation because that was a political threat to the Roman Empire. It was, that belief system is all political power and control. But because our Western world of Europe and the United States, because the church from around 400 AD until around almost 1500 AD, the Catholic Church was the government. And it regulated what you could and could not believe. And if you didn't believe according to that, they killed you. So they basically didn't want people believing in reincarnation because it was a power and control mechanism. So we are conditioned with that as being a part of the Western world, but that is only a very, very small percentage of humanity in the massive history of the human race has believed that it was not real. But there's now coming out excellent research that's backing it up. But I did interrupt you, but I wanted to make that point. But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, I know about Catholicism. I went to first grade through seventh grade in a Catholic school, and yeah, I had a nun threw a book at me and hit me in the head clear across the room. That's the.
Sure.
I mean, the nuns are mean, but anyway, that's not part of what we're talking about here. So, just one more thing is that you maintain, that we are programmed subconsciously from our previous lifetimes. So you would have to say, I guess, that there is no such thing as a new soul coming in to incarnate into this world, right? Because if they did, then my theory would be correct.
Some of them are new.
If a soul,
some can be new. If you want to understand that, there's a book. The book is escaping me, but it was a psychiatrist and psychologist that he basically had interviewed thousands and thousands of people under a hypnosis state, and they would talk about in that state. They would talk about what was the creation of souls, when souls came into existence, when new ones came in. They talked about our reincarnation from lifetime to lifetime. So yes, there are some that do that. Yes, but they're not very many. The vast majority of the human race is a split off of previous lifetimes.
Yeah, but theoretically, if a person had its first lifetime, in the physical universe on Earth, then they theoretically are not programmed to believe.
What we don't know is that they could have lived 1,000 lifetimes in other planets and universes. That's what we don't know. We don't know that.
Well, okay. Well,
see, then you're back to saying that Earth is the only existence of life in the whole universe, and I don't believe that. That's when you look at.
Oh no, I understand what you're saying.
See,
I'm just saying that
we aren't limited by living physical bodies just on this planet to say that we haven't been able to have lives in other planets and other lifetimes. I mean that's a very, 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 very narrow view to think that we as humans are the only ones that are around. When you've got billions of galaxies, and you think there's nothing that's out there, and we're this little tiny planet of Earth is the only thing where life lives.
That wasn't what I was trying to say. I was saying that is there such a thing as a soul, a fresh soul coming into the physical universe that has never, incarnated, never, does not have, recently. You see what I'm saying? Is there any such thing as that?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer on that. I'm not going to try to speculate
Can I add
on
my
that.
perception?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, my perception, it's a good one, Jim. And what I'm really excited about is that people are thinking about this, because as we start to think about it, we're challenging the set programs. You see, this is what we have to do to start challenging the programs. But there is a belief, and there are many teachings, that we are eternal and infinite. So concepts such as a fresh, brand new soul in that sort of scheme doesn't apply. Now, these same teachings teach that everything comes from a prime creator source, and then source has a fragment of itself. For example, Wingmakers calls it a sovereign entity. And this entity, as it starts to, let's put it this way, descend into worlds of various vibrations, dimensions, and frequencies, starts to experience itself in different worlds or even different planets, etc. And because it's eternal and infinite, it accepts the consensus reality of the world into which it is coming. So that's just one perspective, one teaching. For Jim, since you're so thoughtful, to kind of gnaw on that one a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's an interesting answer. Accepting consensus reality. Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Blanca.
Oh, you're quite welcome, and thank you, Jim. I honor the fact that you think about these things, despite going to Catholic school like I did.
Did you go 7 years like me?
No, I escaped the fourth grade.
You escaped. I couldn't escape. My parents made me go there, but I was tortured 7 years in a row.
Yeah, good.
Well, I'll have to say that there's some things that I really do enjoy and did enjoy about it, because, for example, as Dave pointed out, that Jesus is quite a master and quite a genius at consciousness. And because I went to Catholic school, I learned a lot about him. Now, there's a lot of things that I've since released, right, because it doesn't fit with my evolving understanding of that being. But at least that introduced me to several notions. And really, if you think about it, the positive aspects of religion, although we're feeling more of the control issues right now, is that it does open your mind to there's things besides hardcore reality, right? You have to believe in people rising from the dead and multiplication of loaves and all that. So at least that seed is already planted in your mind that things can be different than just materialistic point of view.
Yeah, one thing, if I may say one more thing, one thing I still can't get over, even though I'm 65 years old, I haven't been in Catholic school in many years. I haven't attended church since I was a teenager, Catholic church, there's a nun that told me in grade school that if I died with a mortal sin on my soul, I would be damned to eternal hell. And that scared the hell out of me, and I probably but I mean, the idea of heaven or the idea of hell makes no sense at all. The idea of a loving God sending you to eternal torture, it doesn't make any sense at all. But yet, I still, I could be wrong. That's what and like I told my brother one time, you can't afford to be wrong about eternal damnation. You can't afford to be wrong, because there's intelligent people out there. We all heard them talk. Lots of very, very intelligent people that believe in eternal damnation. And what if they're right and I'm wrong? That's what I can't get over.
And it shows you the power of a belief system and how we can take beliefs and we hold on to them our whole lives. And yet it's how could a loving God create this world? And in that scenario that you just described, it basically said this loving God created this world, but yet condemned 95% of humanity to a damnation in hell. Because what percentage of the world's population ever went through the process of becoming what they call saved? So that gets beyond. It shows you the power of belief and how the impact that a power of belief that can have upon you. And it's how hard sometimes it is to let go of old beliefs. And that's called cognitive dissonance, where we lock ourselves into a belief system because to let go of it is very painful. But yet we allow ourselves to continue, and that dominates our lives. And at some point in time, we have to let go of it and forgive it.
Yeah, but like I said before, you can't afford to be wrong about eternal damnation. You just can't take the chance.
There is no such thing. I know, and I don't, because I don't.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. But a lot of things don't make sense to me. Like I said, I was using the example of very intelligent human beings, extremely intelligent human beings that believe it.
Yeah. Now let me come back,
maybe they're
Jim.
right, and I'm wrong.
Now let me come back and say this: if our world is a holographic universe, and we are the ones who are creating it based on what we experience and how we think, then if I don't believe that, I don't experience it. Because see, otherwise I'm saying that I am a victim and I have no power in my life, I have no control in my life, and this outer world out there is dominating, controlling me, punishing me, and condemning me. That goes against everything of a holographic universe. because it says, I have no control in this world. I am a victim. I am a slave. I let other people control me. I let other people impose their beliefs upon me, and I don't believe that. Now, this comes down to what is called the multiple earth theory, the multiple universe theory. If the world is a hologram and it's not physically real, and I am creating my projection and my thoughts of it, then I will experience what I create. I will experience what I have. So if I don't believe in that condemnation, but that belief has to be very deep within me at the unconscious level. I can't just say it. It has to be at the unconscious level. And if I believe that, then I don't experience that. But yet there are people who could experience that because that's how they program themselves to believe. And then they'll continue to recycle until they forgive it and undo it. And that's the basic teachings of Course in Miracles.
I'm a very cautious person in most things, and see, when I say that, like I said, it doesn't make any sense. I really can't believe it, but at the same time, I must be very cautious and have a priest, Catholic priest, give me last rites when I'm dying. See, I'm laughing about it because it sounds so stupid, but yet it's something that does have an effect on me. So
I know. And Jim, see, that's the classic example how unconscious beliefs still control your life even though you don't live that way anymore.
Yeah.
You see?
Understand.
And now that's another program that I can talk about. There's the way that we release that. There's the way that we heal ourselves of these blocks, and that's the forgiveness process. And there's a step-by-step process to go through that, to release and forgive all that, so we free ourselves from this sense of self-condemnation. Because if we are creating the world we experience, and that's, see, to me, what I'm kind of feeling right now is that you've been the great example how the unconscious mind that has believed something very differently still controls you, even though you don't believe it at the surface level. But you still feel it. You still feel impacted by it. It's still, these thoughts still come through, and you're not at the place of peace. But we can do that. We can come to the place of being at peace with this by learning how to free it and to forgive it.
Yeah, I've often thought about going to sure. I appreciate you taking my call.
Jim,
Thank you.
I would recommend you go read Gary and Renard's book, Disappearance of the Universe, if you haven't read it. I'm serious. If you want to be free of that condemnation, if you want to be free of that condemnation, if you want to be free of that guilt, if you want to be free at a place of peace, go read Gary Renard's book, Disappearance of the Universe. I've talked about that book more than anything else. Go back and watch last week's program and you will see me lift up the book. I'm serious.
Okay.
If anything I have said to you, you have the right to be free. You have the right to be at peace. And that book will help you understand how to get there.
Okay, Dave. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Thanks. All right. Have a good evening. Okay. Right. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have anybody else on the call list, Blanca.
But
that was a great conversation.
I'm very, very pleased that the folks who called in added their perspective, because this is how we do start creating something different, or how we help each other wake up. So I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and I appreciate you getting some good rest so you can jump on the plane and travel halfway around the world.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, Jim, thank you very, very much for calling, because from my perspective, you were our prime student. You're a prime example about how people who want to be loving and caring people, but yet we can still be blocked because it's old stuff, old programming within us that we haven't learned how to let go of. And Jim, you were the prime example of stuff that went all the way back to when you were a teenager. You don't necessarily believe it on the conscious level, but on the unconscious level, it's still impacting you, and it's still somewhat affecting you. That's the place where we're not at peace within ourselves. And life is about learning how to let go and to undo all that old programming, because when we do that, that's when the peace that is inside of us, because see, this is what Jesus said. The kingdom of God is within you. It's inside of you. And whether you use the term kingdom of God or kingdom of heaven, because they're both used in the Gospels, he said it's inside of you. It's there, waiting to come out. But there's blocks. You remove the blocks, then the love of God comes out. The fullness of God comes out. The peace of God comes out. And we begin to experience those things. And that's stuff that we all want. And you don't have to be in a theological, religious, church, doctrine position to be able to experience that. That's something that goes beyond all of that for all of us. And but Jim, you were the great example tonight. And thank you very much, I think, for calling and sharing that with us tonight. So, anything else, Blanca? I think other than that, we're probably ready to wrap up the program tonight.
I think so, Dave.
I said it was going to be a short program, but we still went 1 hour and 5 minutes. All right.
That's right. Well, it's an interesting topic.
Well, next week, folks, I don't really know what the program's going to be like, and I can't say really right now, will there be a program? I would like to, I will try to, but next Wednesday, I'm going to be in Oslo, Norway, on Wednesday night, getting ready to fly out on Thursday morning, but 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time in the United States is 3 a.m. in Oslo, Norway. So that means I'm coming on the air at 3 a.m. for where I am. So, but we'll see. I'll send it out in the newsletter whether or not we'll be doing a program next. I want to try to do one, okay? But it'll be dependent upon the hotel or where I'm at, internet connection and stuff like that. And so that will be dependent upon whether or not I'll be able to do a program next week. Anything else, Blanca?
I think that's it for tonight.
Okay, I think then we're probably ready to say good night, folks. Thank you very much, and we will see you all next week. Why is my little jingle not playing? There we are.